Greetings, scientists. This is your week 2 of our packet of stuff, our last packet of stuff we picked up, or week 5 of our video lessons for science. This is the video where I'm going to go over this lesson plan because, as I talked about last week, this is a little different format than what you're used to. I'm going to show you where to find the materials you need to do, and I'm going to remind you about the additional videos and things that are on here. This is a project that's kind of what you make of it. There's some things we need you to do, but some parts of it you can do depending on your interest and your time that you have available to work on it, but you probably have a lot more than when you were at school. Last week we talked about the basics beginning of it. Now we are going to go into week 2. Now this is on the back of the page that said week 1. This is the first page of the packet. This is the back side of it where it says week 2 on top. We are going to focus on getting to know the physical features. Our objectives this week is to discover that physical features explain why animals look and behave the way they do. So we're going to read some articles and we're going to talk about plants and animals and their structures. Now, there are 2 things here I'm going to highlight, and you can mark them by if you'd like to with a pencil or whatever. These are the things that you need to do, okay? This is the part that is the lesson here that you need to do. Okay, I'm going to write that right here. This part is very important. There are 2 articles. One's called Structure and Function, and the other one's called Adaptations. Little to do with plants and something to do with animals. These are printed and are included in the packet that you have. Now, this section down here is additional. I'm going to highlight that in a different color. This is if you wish to learn more or see a really cool demonstration of this thing, you can go online to see this. This is what it says, additional. This is extra, this second section right here. This is extra. To do this, you would go on to the digital version of this packet that I gave to you on your Parents Remind and on Google Classroom. It's on there. You would open it up. It's an exact carbon copy of what you have, except it's online. These are colored blue. These 2 are actually, and you can click on them, and it'll actually open up a digital version in Discovery Education or Generation Genius, and you can actually watch these videos, or you can read your articles that way. If you're like, oh, I'm so tired, I can't read this right now. Oh, okay, well, then you could go here, click, and it will read it to you. Okay, pretty cool. You know how to do that. All right, so these are the 2 things you have to do, and I'm going to show you these in a minute. These are extra. I'm not going to click on these or show these to you right now, but these can be done on the digital copy to get in. Now, on the bottom, there is a project. The option means this is your options. Sometimes there's more than one. Right now, there's only one option, so I'm going to highlight this yellow because you need to do this too. It's been a lot of confusion, not out of everyone, but a few people have had a lot of confusion about if this is just here to look at or if you're supposed to do it. So you need to do this and you need to do this, okay? This is, just like it says, extra. All right, I will show you where to find this as well. You can click on it here on the digital copy and do it digitally, but I'm going to show you there's paper copies of this and this. You do not need the internet. You don't need a computer to do these yellow things that you need to do. This extra stuff, you would need the internet and access to a device to do. All right, let's take a look at what these things are referring to. Let's first look at these 2 articles. I'm going to show you where they are and what you need to do with them. So the Structure and Function article looks like this. I'm kind of grabbing all the papers at once. This is from Generation Genius. This is the reading material about structure and function. When you flip through the packet, you will see this next as you move on. Alrighty now, this is really important. When you read this, you might want to go through it with a highlighter or a pencil and underline things that are important. Some of the really important stuff, though, is when it talks about breaking it down, these headings right here generally give you a really good clue. Okay, so you're going to go through this and you're going to kind of see what the structure is here. And it talks about animal structures. And then the next page talks about plant structures. Okay, so this is our structure part. This is the first part of the lesson where it said structure and function. What we're going to learn about this week is that some animals have certain structures that help them survive. Okay? Some have amazing eyesight, like eagles. Some have camouflage to hide. Some animals, like this one, has a forked tongue. That's a water monitor lizard. It has a forked tongue. Actually helps it smell and find food. It talks about how insects have exoskeletons, and we've kind of talked about stuff like that before. The newer part is when we talk about plants, and that's this one. Plants have different parts too. The root, stems, leaves, flowers, and fruit. You knew about those. That's not new, but some plants have big roots. Some have long roots that help them get water from deep in the earth. Some don't need that because the water is more abundant, so plants adapt to that. Some have flowers that are used to attract insects. Remember, the insects come and drink the nectar. They drop off the pollen, or they pick up the pollen, and they take it to another flower. They help the flower reproduce by doing that. Some plants live in dry areas, have special leaves. Did you know that on a cactus, which this is, that those little needles we call, those are actually leaves. They're specialized leaves that don't lose a lot of moisture out in the hot environment. So yeah, even though it looks kind of funny, that is the plant's leaves. It also protects it so that animals know there's water in there, and if these needles are here that are leaves, they don't try to go after it and get it. It helps protect the plant because a cactus can't just get up and run away, right? So that's kind of what that's about. The second article that you're going to be reading and taking some time with and learning about talks about functions, and this is the beginning of it here, that animal and plant structures have functions. The functions will tell you here what that does, like it talks about elephants in this particular example, and it talks about corn, which actually has a special root structure that helps to keep it from falling over when the corn grows on it, the heavy corn cob, so it doesn't just tip over and fall. It has special structure in its roots and other places to help it stand strong, and that happens. Okay, it's going to talk about that in here. That's very interesting stuff. So that's animal and plant structures. Now, there'll be some good examples here of structure at the end. Okay, here's some neat things. The whip spider, the gecko, and the sea coconut. You can read about that on there and see how that works. Again, when you click on those links in that middle orange part of the lesson that I showed you, there might be moving examples of these animals doing these things so you can see it. Here are the vocabulary words you need to know. You don't need to copy them down or anything like that. Just read over them and kind of be familiar with them, because when we get to the back here, there'll be some discussions about it and things you'll need to answer or be able to answer. Because this is the kind of thing that when you do the structure lab with it, you might want to know. Okay, so that kind of gets us going, and then it's going to take us into the second part, which was adaptations. This is the adaptations article. It looks like this. It has some definitions. It talks about breaking it down. It talks about how animals adapt to protect themselves. Now, we did a little of this in 3rd grade, and you did some of this in 2nd grade. You might even remember the animal adaptation song that you learned if you were in Mrs. Storman's class. This is all about survival. Now, it's a little more in-depth than that song, but it's going to start talking about this, how animals adapt. And I want to show you this page right here. It shows reasons that animals had adaptations. Animals have adaptations to protect themselves, and it'll give you some great examples here, and there's some great videos on this too. And down here it says it helps them obtain food. Okay, well, we've learned about some of these, and hummingbirds are highlighted in this article. How they have long, skinny beaks because they need that to get that in there like a straw to get that nectar out that they need a lot of actually to stay alive, because they burn a lot of energy with their wings flapping so fast and everything. And this long beak lets it get down into the nectar areas that other birds can't. So it can actually access nectar that other birds cannot, which is very cool. It talks about pelicans in here, and those are, you can look that up to see what one looks like, but that's a bird with a big, long beak, it's almost like a bag on the bottom, where it can scoop stuff out of the water and eat things, and you can look that up on the site to see that. And then it talks about unique adaptations, like giraffes and their kind of unique adaptation, like its long neck that it has, and the tongues and their tongues are, I think it says in here, 16 to 18 inches long, and it talks about that. And so there's some animals in here, and if you see an animal and you're like, gee, I can't picture what that looks like because there's not a picture, type the name of the animal into Google and look at the images of it, and it'll show you. Or if you go check these articles out, they're all in there too. Now, as we get to the end of the adaptation article, And again, animals have all these adaptations we've learned for defending themselves, for getting food. Those are the reasons they have these. At the end, it'll give you some examples. So there's like the dog's sense of smell, cat's eyes for night, adapted to getting food at night. Deer have strong leg muscles so they can get away. That's for survival, to protect itself, not to fight really so much as it is to just escape predators. So those are all things that people might not know about adaptations, but those are the things we want to kind of focus on about adaptations this week. And again, at the end, there's some plant and animal vocabulary: adaptation, environment, armadillo. And again, if you don't know what that is, you can look that word up and it will show you. And here are some questions. And if you can read the question, think about it to yourself. What do you think the answer is? Then you can read it and it'll actually give you the answer. If you're able to kind of think of the answer of each one of these and get most of what this says before you read it, you've understood the article pretty well. You can kind of self-check yourself when you do this. All right, well, there is an activity that we're going to show you, and I'm thinking at one of our meetings we might do this so you have it to practice it. And the meeting is making a paper glider, okay? And it's kind of a neat little thing. There is a video. If you go on to the link, you can click on this video and they demonstrate everything like with motion and everything. But it tells you how to use the engineering process to make a structure and redesign it based on results. You're going to use biomimicry to experiment with structures that accomplish similar functions for birds. These are some materials that you might need. Now, it says here, wooden skewers, scissors, tape, straws, a coin, and sturdy construction paper. Now, there is some examples of the procedure here on the bottom. It's better if you can watch the video, which again, you would click on this link and it goes through every step with you, kind of like Mystery Doug. Not exactly the same, but close. And it tells you what to do. Cut a point off the skewer, find a bird's wing, imitate it, all right? And then Zoe does it in the video and you can watch, but it shows you. And then it shows you how to fold the construction paper to create this. And then you're going to poke a hole in the wing, tape the skewer to the wing, and kind of solidify it and test how it flies. Then you can use some of these other materials to see if you can make it fly farther or if you can make it more sturdy. And you'll kind of get the idea of the structure of a bird's wings, because this is all inspired by birds. I mean, airplanes, of course, are slightly inspired by birds because they fly. And their whole, that kind of gave us our idea of wings and how things go. And so this here will be a great kind of fun thing you can do at home. You can get some of these things. If you don't have all this stuff, it's okay. Just get what you can get. And basically, you're making a glorified paper airplane, except you're going to modify the wings of the paper airplane to try taking the skewer out, put the straw in, because birds have bones that are a little different than ours. Our bones, if we were to look at them, if we have like a leg bone or whatever here, okay, here's your bone, they're solid. They're solid bone, which there's a little part in the middle called the marrow, but it's very solid, and that makes it strong so that if we take a blow or we fall or something, it doesn't break so easily, okay? So we have a bone. Now, if we were to look at this part of our bone, it would look something like this. There would be the marrow, and then there'd be a very thick amount of bone around that, bone cells that make this strong. Now, in a bird, it's a little different. They have their bones. Okay, here's the bone, and again, their bones are smaller in some cases, but ours are much thicker. But if we were to look at theirs in a cross-section, we would see marrow, but not much, and it would be very hollow. The bone would be very, very light going around the outside. Now, why is that? Well, that's so the bird can fly. It makes the bone lighter. Now, their bones are more brittle and they break more easily, but it's so they can fly because they need less weight. If they had bones like this, they couldn't get off the ground. You know, that's why we can't put on a pair of wings and flap around. We're just so heavy with our bones and everything. They are lighter, and they can do that. You can simulate this in your plane that you make, your wing, with your wooden skewer. That's a wooden stick with a sharp pointy edge. That's probably what that is if you have one. That's very thick. That kind of represents these bones. But if you have a straw, like from somewhere, and maybe a bendy straw, and you turn it sideways, the skewer is solid and looks like this. The bendy straw is round and hollow in the middle. Which one would be more like the bird? The straw would, wouldn't it? The bird has more of a straw-like structure. So when you are making your reinforcements here, you might want to use something more like a bird bone. And when you read in the articles, it'll show you why. So this is the article I want you to look over, and this is the activity I'd like you to try this week. If you have access to the video, it's a much better experience, but you can still do it off the directions on the bottom. But check that video out. It's really cool. So that's kind of what you're going to be working on in science this week. Let me go back to our outline now so we be sure we understood everything. Okay. So the two articles I showed you and kind of just went over the main points of, you're going to read and kind of to see if you understand the discussion questions. No writing involved. You're just going to read and check the questions out. You need to do these two articles. I have no way of checking if you did them or not, obviously, unless we talk about them in an online meeting. But please do those because that's very important. This part we can check, though. These are optional. You do need to do the paper glider thing I just showed you. At least give it a try and try to build one. This is all extra. Now, this article right here will be great for this project because it's all about birds. Okay, and there's, of course, a video here. This will open up that video that you can get into. These right here, this one and this one and this one especially, will help you understand some of the things about adaptations that help animals survive. This talks about hunting, and this talks about plants too. So these videos here are also very, very useful. So if you can get time to watch any of those on your device, it will certainly help your understanding, because next year in middle school, you're going to really start taking some specialized science classes compared to what you do in elementary school. And all this background knowledge can do nothing but help you. So keep working at it and keep having a good time with it. And like I said, we're probably going to talk about one of these in an open meeting just so we kind of have a clue. All right. So I hope that made sense. Again, you can contact me if you need help. And of course, if you're at the online meeting, I will try to provide some more examples to help out because this is a little different format than what we usually do. Well, this whole school thing is, and I want to try to make it as helpful as possible. All right, everybody. Take care. Talk to you later.